everybody. It's great to be here. My name is Tom Dusenberry, and I'm the owner of Dusenberry Entertainment. It's my own company, and I really focus on business development, licensing, and consulting type work. And my career is really that I worked in the game industry for the last 35 years. And I worked at Parker Brothers Games for years, and then I was the CEO of Hasbro Interactive, and I acquired Atari, and then I also started Games.com, which was the very first internet game about 15 years ago. And I'm really excited today to be speaking with Richard Berry. Richard is the Executive Vice President and Chief Merchandising Officer of Toys R Us. And if you think about Toys R Us, it's probably the most important kid company in the world, from a point of view that all the distribution of product really goes through Toys R Us. So it's a very, very meaningful discussion that we're going to have today. And Richard has a phenomenal career. He's been with Toys R Us for 27 years. He started at the store level, and now he's at the very top of the company. So he knows everything about that company. He knows how to run it from a store perspective, but equally important is that he really understands how to run it from a corporate or a strategic perspective as well. So Richard, do you want to tell a little bit more about yourself?
Well, as you said, actually it's 29 years,
29
believe it or not. I'm only 32, by the way. I started young. But no, I've had an awesome career at a great company that's all about really bringing joy into the lives of our customers. And as Tom said, I've worked in stores, ran operations in the UK for a while, and had the benefit of really gaining experience about our company, not only in the UK and not only in the United States, but also a stint that I had working in our international division and traveling the world to our 34 markets in the world where we trade. And Toys R Us is one of the few very successful, truly global companies. And there's many companies that have tried to enter big markets like China or Japan. And our brand is so recognizable and so successful that we've been able to build businesses in all those countries around the world.
You know, I've sold about $500 million worth of merchandise to Toys R Us over my career, so I've had a great experience with the company. And what I find is that most people, when they think about Toys R Us, they think about it as a store. But today, Toys R Us is just so much more than that. It's just unbelievable. It's one of the top 5 toy companies in the world. It has its own brands. If you think about True Heroes or Imagination, they're all there at Toys R Us. And you think about it from a point of view that they can develop the product, they can manufacture the product, and they can merchandise it like nobody else. So when I look at Toys R Us, I look at them as being so much more than just a retail outlet, but a full-service, children's-focused company that can make all the different elements happen. You want to explain that a little bit further?
Well, our role is to engage and find ways the kids want to play. And that's what we're in the business of. We're in the business of delivering play and delivering joy to the lives of our customers. And when you think about that, you know, where does that come from? Does it come from a transactional relationship with a manufacturer? No, it doesn't come from that. It comes in many different regards. It comes from understanding what kids are doing, how they're engaging in technology, what are the things they're interested in, what are the entertainment properties that are up and coming, what's going to be the news this year and next, through to finding out the ways that you're going to be able to motivate them and to differentiate your offer to make them excited about the products that we sell and about our store overall. So for us, you know, physical products are part of it, but understanding how kids are playing, what they're doing, where they're actually consuming media, and then how we can build into that with our own brands. And we have a very significant brand business of our own with many great brands like Imaginarium and FAO Schwartz and EduScience and Journey Girls. We've got a lot of great brands there. Those are just one part of a multifaceted story.
I don't know if you know this or not, but Skylanders has been a huge success, and it was driven by an exclusive by Toys R Us to really make the business happen. Richard was really the guy behind that to really make it happen, and I think it would be great if he shared with you the story as it relates to working with a partner such as Activision, seeing what that opportunity is, finding those customers to make the business happen, and then perpetuate it into the success that it is today.
Well, the story behind Skylanders is a very interesting one. Around 2 years before that product came out, Activision were bringing together a product that was going to be Spyro, which was a a video game that had been out some years ago. And we saw the technology and immediately fell in love with what we saw. And in that case, we actually went through a very close partnership with Activision, really almost being consultants to them in the process of the development of the product. We saw the product from basic handcrafted models and a simulation of what the technology might look like all the way through. And it was a two-way conversation with us in partnership with Activision to come up with a great, what was ultimately a great product. And I think we can say that we had our fingerprints on the development of that product in partnership with them. But it just doesn't stop there in terms of that piece. How that property has been able to be so successful is because there was a magic in it that we wanted to help Activision bring to life. And that activation was really brought through in a number of different ways. First of all, in terms of the retail activation overall, I said to my team, we're putting a flag in the ground and we're going to become the destination for this category, which we called Toys to Life. And in doing so, we're going to make sure that we have a program where everything about Skylanders, if you want to be into Skylanders, there's really going to be only one place that you're going to really want to be. And you do that through incredible execution of feature shops in store, through great marketing, but also through having extremely important exclusive content. And for kids that are collecting action figures or they're collecting any sort of characters, what they want to have is the latest and greatest. And in the case of Toys to Life, there's a beautiful thing here where there's the beauty of collecting great action figures in their own right. These are great toys in their own right that would sell in their own right. But there's also the fact that those characters that you're buying are part of building your activation of the storyline and bringing the toy to life in the story. So having exclusive characters, having differentiated products, having a way that kids can get their hands on that stuff earlier is a way to really make sure that flag in the ground was important. And together, we and Activision have really, I think, built an incredible business. It's no secret that it's the #1 selling action figure in our stores and was, as reported by NPD a year ago. It's an incredibly successful franchise. And frankly, it came from a video game. It wasn't a classic entertainment property delivered by a Disney or a Nickelodeon or a Fox, but something that was created through a video game. So in that case, the brand was really built on the fact that there was something magical about it. And we helped through our stores, through our digital experience, through our website, we were able to help bring that to life and get kids to engage and tell the story and really drive that collectability, which was core to the franchise.
Yeah, fantastic. Then let's build on that a little bit. Tech toys, kids' electronics, they're beginning to take more and more market share from a overall perspective. What happened this year, and what are those trends, and how do you see them in the future?
Well, there's no doubt that tech toys continue to be extremely important with regard to how kids are thinking about play. But there's a question here. Are they complementary or are they in conflict to toys? And the example that we just gave on Skylanders shows that you can take something which you could say was a conflict here. It actually turned out to be extraordinarily complementary. And if you look at some of the biggest successes that we saw this year, the technology complemented the toy experience overall. So there doesn't need to be a conflict of technology winning out and apps winning out or a video game winning out. When the magic happens here is when you take great technology and when you take great toys and you put the two together, you mash the two things up together, and one tells the story, one actually feeds off the other. So I think a good example would be something like Lego Fusion as an example. This year that we were delighted to work with Lego on. Several years ago, we brought that to our stores exclusively. And if you think about that product, there you have the classic building experience of blocks in a box that you put together, that you then use your digital device, your iPhone, you take a photo of it, and now you have an experience sitting in an app. And those things are complementary to each other. They're not fighting with each other. They work together in a very beautiful way. In addition, I think if you look at other things, robotics is an up-and-coming technology that I'm blown away by what the toy manufacturers are bringing to market at this point. If you look at something like MIP from Huawei this year, who could have dreamed a few years ago that you could have a robot that's on 2 wheels that is programmable in an infinite number of ways, and yet, in its simplest forms, it's an RC vehicle that you can basically move around, but has got an extension to its play pattern, which is kind of endless, because now I'm using an app and I'm using technology to be able to manipulate that toy in many different ways. So for us, it's not about conflict. It's actually about complement, and that mashup of bringing things together and thinking about where you can really make things fit together so they work off each other are extremely important. Other examples, we had a jewelry line this year, arts and crafts item called Charmazing, where an app actually helped you in terms of showing off what you had and driving your collectability. So there's many, many, many examples. And for us, it's about embracing that and finding more ways that we can have the technologies mashing up together so that we can take traditional toys. And Lego is as a traditional toy as you can have it. Charmazing, building beads or whatever on a bracelet, very traditional play patterns, but finding ways to extend the play through the technology. They don't have to fight each other.
Great. I think one question that everybody in this room has for you, and that is that what happened in 2014 from a success point of view with products, and were there any runaway hits?
Well, there were some runaway hits. If anyone's heard of this thing called Frozen, it was kind of popular last year. But even there, I think when you talk about technology, while Frozen was an incredible franchise, there were products there that were standout products, like the Elsa doll from Jakks Pacific. That item was a standout success because what it did is it took, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, electronics in a toy might have been something beeps or something has some sort of movement in it. But in that case, you had Let It Go, which is the core element of that brand. When you hear that song, you know that you're talking about Frozen, and you take a beautiful doll and you're able to put the music into it, and then you're able to have the brand essence really come through. And that's why that particular product, as an example, was so successful. So we were very excited about that. So everything Frozen. On the action figure side of things, Turtles was a great success following the movie. But we also saw a tremendous year in classic products. Lego had another really great year overall, which was fantastic to see. But there were some surprises that we had as well. There's a small Australian company called Moose, who's had some great success. Actually, we worked with them some years ago in bringing their business to the US with a product called Trash Pack, and they had a let's call it the girls' version of Trash Pack this year, which was a product called Shopkins, which were these little squishy, rubbery figures that were collectible and has done extraordinarily well. And then we saw a lot of, I think, technology and robotics products. The Zoomer dinosaur from Spin Master which was incredibly good. And again, I mentioned the WowWee product, but Zoomer is another great example of where you look at the character and the personality of a toy coming through the electronics and the robotics. That was another example of something that was really good. But they were some of the key ones. But it was a great year for the toy industry overall.
That's fabulous. Just to ask a question, you answered the question as it relates to what the products that were successful. From a point of view of consumer trends, did you see any differences as it relates to them coming to your store versus online, or any of those types of things that you can share with the audience?
One of our core strategies in recent years is to really recognize that in the customer's mind, the Toys R Us brand can be engaged in many, many different ways. And it's not about thinking about the physical store and thinking about that as the place or the repository for people to transact. The fact is that people are researching on their mobile phone, on their iOS device, on their computer, and they're having many different ways in which they're engaging with our brand, which generally speaking, the first point is not necessarily in a physical store. So for us, it's very much about building all of the opportunities to shop how you want and when you want. So if you want to have that physical experience of going to the store, that's fantastic. But also if you want to have an omni-channel experience and be able to do your research online, maybe go and pick it up into the store. And, for those, think about those big bulky items we sell, like big gym sets or those big Power Wheel items that cost a fortune to ship. The convenience of having something like buy online and then come and pick it up in the store is a huge competitive advantage overall. So we're thinking about our business in an omni-channel way. And frankly, it doesn't matter to us whether the customer transacts online, they transact in the store. We want them to transact with our brand because we know that we are the experts to deliver them the best content for kids and for play.
Yeah, great. And then putting your crystal ball on and looking towards 2015, what trends or what kind of products are you excited about?
Well, this is an extremely exciting time for us this time of the year, and we travel literally thousands of miles. We circumnavigate the world a couple of times over the next couple of months.
Why don't you explain real quick what you're going to do over the next 6 weeks, just so they understand what a toy executive does.
So this sounds very glamorous, but I can assure you it's not. So we're at CES. Tonight I'm going to get on a plane and fly to Hong Kong. I'm going to spend some time in Hong Kong and in China. We're going to leave there. We're going to come back. I'm going to be on the ground for about 5 days. Then we're going to go and see Lego in Billund for a couple of days. Then we're going to go off to the Nuremberg Toy Show. We're going to come back for a few days. We're going to go to Arizona to Destination PlayStation and look at the video games industry. We're going to come back from there, and we're going to go to New York Toy Fair. And
Nuremberg, you forgot Nuremberg.
I forgot Nuremberg. Oh, my dear me. So that's just a flavor of what we're up to. And in addition to that, by the way, our teams are meeting with many of our partners on an individual basis through the same time period. So for us, it's very, very important that we have our fingertips on what's going on in the industry. By the way, in addition to the traditional relationships that we will be discussing, we're also meeting at some of those shows with inventors, with the licensing companies, with Disney, with Nickelodeon, anybody you can think that's in the business of kids entertainment. Today, as an example, we went to the Intel breakfast. We've met with Intel. We're meeting with Google. We're meeting with literally anybody you would think might have a position in toys. From that, we're going to look to distill down what we believe the trends are for the year. And, some of those I think are clear. Some of the things from this year, what are the entertainment properties that are going to drive the toy business in 2015? Well, there's a little movie called Star Wars coming at the end of the year. We're going to see a Minions movie, which I think is going to be awesome. We're going to see Jurassic World in the middle of the year. So I think entertainment properties are going to continue to be very big. Minecraft continues to be an incredible phenomenon overall in that kind of, again, a mashup of taking, in that case, a digital property and then bringing it into toys. That continues to be extremely strong. And then I think there's things like robotics overall that are going to continue to be very strong. I know Spin Master is speaking here at some point today. If you've not seen their product through Meccano, it is extraordinarily good. And again, just shows you how in technology really being brought down to price points and with access that is great for toys, that you can take a product like Meccano, you can reinvent it in an incredibly different way. And actually, in that case, it's a building experience, but it's also a robotics and a programming and an educational experience like no other. So robotics, we believe, is going to be a big deal. But then there's a lot of great core products. Toys to Life is going to be another big one. New Infinity products from Disney, and some exciting introductions from some other companies as well. So we're very excited about that Toys to Life area too.
So let's talk a little bit about apps. So on the one hand, everybody uses apps, but they've also proven to be a little bit difficult to monetize. And I think that you look at apps more than just a content opportunity. It's a merchandising and sales opportunity. Could you explain to the audience a little bit how you look at apps and what those components are?
So first of all, there's a transactional elements to apps through our dedicated Toys R Us and Babies R Us apps. For that mother-to-be who is going to register through our baby registry, using an app is very, very important. But also through things that we can do to make the shopping experience easy. One of the things that we did this year, a very simple application, was we put a cardboard map at the front of every one of our stores with a QR code. and you could scan the QR code with a QR code reader, and we'd give you a specific map for that store that you could then enter product items into and find the location, the specific location of that item in the store. So that sort of physical, make my life easier through apps and through technology is a big play for us. We introduced a tablet-optimized website, and obviously we're investing significantly in mobile, where we know that's where the customer journey is often starting now, is on that handheld device. So that's a big piece for us. But as it pertains to the toy business overall, how we're thinking about things there is much more about things being complementary. And I've given you some of the examples already, Lego Fusion being one of them, where there's an app with that product which is totally complementary to the game experience. And what it does is it takes a brick building experience, and it extends that experience to a digital experience the kids can take with them on the go. That is something which extends the play and is totally complementary and is not in conflict at all. So there's some of the examples of how we think about apps. And the magic in our mind is when you can take a great toy with a great classic play pattern, and you can build that in with technology and allow that technology to extend and complement the product.
Great. The next question really pertains to who the Toys R Us customer is. And if I think about it, your primary audience is the kid, who you're going to be the play experience, but mom and dad have to have a huge influence on that as well. So can you explain a little bit who that customer is and how you differentiate between the child experience and then also the parent communication?
So our customers are literally anybody that wants to be in the business of play and in the business of toys, and whether it's that kid that wants to use our digital app to go and make their wish list in holiday season, or it's the parent that's just looking to be the hero in bringing a fantastic toy that's going to be under the Christmas tree on Christmas Day. What we're seeing overall is our customer base isn't changing anyway. What's changing is the way that they're engaging with our brand, and whether they're engaging through digital, whether it's an engagement through mobile, or whether it's an engagement through our physical stores. And our physical stores are an incredible asset, because in the business of play, and as we think about how we differentiate between the kid and the parent here, for the kid, it is a wonderland coming into our store and seeing those brands and engaging with those brands in such an incredible way. But for the parent, it can be a little overwhelming overall, but it can also be that point where we're going to have it, we're going to be able to do it. And when we're not playing in this business, for a few months of the year, we're playing in it 365 days a year, 24 hours a day.
Great. This is the last question, and then we'll open it up to audience participation. But when you start to look at technologies, what technologies are you really bullish about today? Is it 3D printing? Is it robotics? Is it wearables? Where do you see Toys R Us going?
Well, we're really excited about many of those technologies, and actually, having spent some time yesterday walking the halls here, there's many other things that you look at that you can be excited about as well. And I can think back 4 or 5 years when we saw introduction of things like Bluetooth being big and not really being able to comprehend how they would be in toys, or RF technology, or near field communication. We know they're all things that are going to be big in years to come. But 3D printing is one that we are very excited about. We know it's in its infancy, but we are extremely motivated to be at the forefront of that technology. We've been working with Hasbro in a number of our stores with their 3D Plus Me technology. So Tom, we can make you Iron Man, we can scan your face, and then we can send you a customized Iron Man or Captain America. And we've also been working with another company, Peacemaker, in a number of our stores, where you can basically print in store some collectible charms and accessories overall. So we want to be at the forefront there. And equally, I think robotics. We've seen it in some kind of mass market toys over recent years, MIP and Zuma we mentioned as an example. But I think we are absolutely at the tip of a massive explosion in terms of how good those products are going to be and how they're going to extend the play for kids overall.
Great. Thank you. So I hope you share with my excitement about where Toys R Us is today and where they're going in the future. Clearly, they're poised to be a major player in the children's entertainment and distribution business. And it seems to me like they've got all the different facets covered. So I just think that their future is very, very bright, and they're great partners, as Richard has talked about. So when you're thinking about where you can take your innovation, I think Toys R Us should be one of the places that you should be considering from a launch partner perspective. So with that, we'd like to open it up to questions.
I thought it was kind of interesting this year that when I asked my daughter what she wanted for Christmas, she really thought for a minute. And thinking back to when we were kids, we had, the Toys R Us wish book, and we had TV commercials that were very repetitive. But we don't have television in the house, we don't have cable. So just thinking of how Toys R Us is interesting because you're both a toy company and a retailer trying to reach kids from their perspective. How are you reaching them when, the TV that used to really move the dial is probably becoming less and less effective to younger kids?
Well, the way we're thinking about our marketing now and in the future is we know that kids and also parents are consuming media in many different ways. It isn't just a traditional newspaper and TV model anymore. So we have to make sure we're in all of those places. So whether it's our dedicated YouTube channel, or whether we're on social media, whether we have videos on Vine, or we're on Instagram or Twitter, that's where we're going to have to be. And that's where, if you look at how we spent our money last year, we spent a significantly higher proportion of our money on some of those media channels than we did on some of the more traditional ones overall.
My company does a lot of tech education, and although I've been pleased to see the number of young girls coming into our classes, certainly the tech field is highly dominated by young boys and men. And how do you see that from a toy perspective as you come into robotics and some of the apps and education? Do you see a lot of gender neutral, or do you still see it quite split between there are boys' toys and girls' toys?
I think the marketplace is still quite traditional in being much more robotics orientated in its kind of traditional sense, but there seems to be huge opportunity, I think, to reposition that overall. But I don't think we've really seen anybody at this point grab hold of that in a major way, and it feels like it's a very, very big opportunity for the future.
Thank you. So you mentioned that emerging markets such as China are also very important for the potential future growth for Toys R Us, and you also mentioned like Hollywood movies, all those IPs are very important for the success of toys because of the stories and the characters they have. So, and different markets with different cultures, stories will have different impacts, right? So what is Toys R Us strategy of selecting toys with different cultural backgrounds to penetrate into that market?
So we are a global company. From a merchant point of view, we have an organization called our Global Commercial Committee, which has representatives from Asia, from Europe, from the US, from Canada. And one of the things that is very, very important for us is that we're able to share what kids are into and what kids are thinking about and what the entertainment properties are in different markets, realizing that while you can monetize those and you can really drive scale through everybody doing the same thing, there's also this element that things are actually quite uniquely different between different markets. And I've spent a fair amount of time working in our Japanese market and understanding that market, in that it is the business there couldn't be any more different than the business in the United States or the business in Europe. And what kids think about and how they engage is completely different. But there is something there which you can also extract, which is what are the things that we can pull out, that we can help. And part of what we do, this Global Commercial Committee, is work with both entertainment companies in different parts of the world, but also toy companies. That's the big guys in Asia, Bandai, Takara Tomy, etc., and think about how we can bring their properties to life in other markets around the world.
Very good. Well, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it.
I have one fast question. Have you ever heard of Minecraft? There's a serious side to this. They were purchased by Microsoft for $2.5 billion.
Yep.
Have they crested? And do you think?
Absolutely not.
No.
Really?
Absolutely not. We just saw Lego just recently launched its Minecraft toy product. They sold it exclusively online through ToysRUs.com and other online players. An extraordinary success. We just put it in the stores last week. It is doing incredibly well. I have a 9-year-old boy. If I look at what he's spending his time on, this is a crazy property, which is not just about the fact that I'm playing and I'm building, but it's also watching what other kids are doing, watching how they do it, and figuring out this wide, long, crazy world.
In addition to that, what's happening is that it's becoming an educational tool. So if you want to teach your kids about physics and stuff like that, you put them into Minecraft.
My question
and
is-
that's where I think a lot of parents are beginning to say, get my kid in there and let him go as far as he can.
To you toy gurus, Minecraft was launched the same year as Lego Universe. You may not have ever heard of Lego Universe, but it was a David and Goliath story for sure.
Yep.
And it's only 4 years later. How could a major company in its DNA, has building, either mess up so badly or somebody else was so successful, Notch and Minecraft?
Brick by brick, row by row. I mean, they went consumer by consumer and
Is
won
there
them
one?
over.
Is there one short answer though? I mean,
Incredible gameplay. I mean, the people want to come back. They've got a fever to want to continue to do it. And there's very few times those games happen. And when they do, that's why they're billion-dollar valuations. But there's a magic in that, and Minecraft definitely has that magic, whereas others don't. And that's what creativity is all about.
We talked about freedom this morning, the freedom to play your way.
Customization and personalization. If you look at the toy industry, I mean, Lego has just gone through the moon, and the other companies are kind of stagnant. What is Lego? Customization and personalization. That's what they do in everything. And that to me is where the whole future is from a digital point of view, is customization and personalization.